People invest in people. They don't really invest in companies. They got to believe in you. At this point, they would be invested in me, but also they're investing in the future, right? They're investing in the culture. Again, you know, Black we the it thing now, man. Like everybody want a piece of Black culture, right? They got to figure out a way to reach the people, the communities, and talk to us.
In tech, if you're building an app, a lot of investors, depending on at which stage, they want to see, okay, well, how many people are using it? How often are they coming back to use it, and et cetera. In the space of live event production, what success indicators do you find investors are looking for to say, okay, Jay Carter's the guy we want to put some fuel in the tank versus, Joe over here who hasn't even started yet?
Right. So it's the cart in front of the horse, right? Because they want to see success. They're solely about numbers, right? I mean, if you go to a bank and ask them for, a loan or whatever, I'm sorry, my printer's going off. But but if you ask for the loan, I mean, the first thing they want to know is, well, what's your credit score? How much collateral you got? What you got in the bank. So, we do a personal guarantee on this. So you have to have history, right? So this was a concept and an idea that had no history, right? When I first started off, right? And then in your earlier years, it's kind of like you're not hitting your financial numbers, right? So how do I take this to a bank and say, I need you to believe in me, lend me $500,000? So then you'd have to go probably the non-traditional way to find investors. Still and yet, those investors want to see your books, right? So it was one of those things. It's not really that I want more of the pie for myself, but I have to build a story that is proven in order to get people to come on board or to invest in me. So I almost have to, I almost have to invest everything that I have in it for people to believe and see, okay, this is a viable brand to invest in. But yeah, I did not have the track record. I didn't have the numbers and the financial history to really ask folks for money, unless they believe in me, they believe in the concept and wanted to come along for the ride. But that's a difficult thing to sell.
Yeah, and so I've talked to a lot of investors over the years, and many of them, when they make investments, they've communicated that they're often betting on the horse, not the jockey, not the horse. So they're betting on that entrepreneur, not necessarily the product, because so many times the product evolves and it changes and it morphs and it becomes something else. But if they're invested in Jay Carter, they believe Jay Carter is the guy who's going to figure it out no matter what the end of the day product looks like. In your space, what are investors investing in? Are they investing in just Jay Carter the person? Are they investing in your contact book that you're going to be able to get 2 Chainz to come, that you're going to be able to get Outkast to show up, or you're going to be able to do this? Or are they investing in the idea that we just need a conference here and we're looking for somebody, a festival here, and we're just looking for somebody who's putting one on? What are they investing in your industry?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So it would be the investing in me. It's the invest. So that's what people say. People invest in people. They don't really invest in companies. They got to believe in you. So at this point, they would be invested in me, but also they're investing in the future, right? They're investing in the culture. Again, but we the it thing now, man. Like everybody want a piece of Black culture, right? They got to figure out a way to reach the people, the communities, and talk to us. And how do I do that in an authentic voice? So we are a true and through authentic African-American Black owned music festival, right? That through our marketing campaigns and media can reach 1 billion impressions a year. Um, so it's okay. These folks they got some legs. Well, what's your plans? Are you guys expanding to other cities? Like, what else are you all doing, right? So, um, and that's we spent a lot of time during the pandemic doing is what's next, right? Where are we going next? Other cities. I mean, we launched our brand agency, our second brand agency. So we were doing a lot of building during the pandemic, and that's when investors want to see. Okay, I see what your books look like for one festival, but you know, if your capacity is 50,000, where's the growth? 50,000 is 50,000, right? So where's the growth? And that's what we've been putting together is the growth plan for OMF and OMF team. So,
Yeah, you mentioned it, which I love the concept of, Black people are the thing that people are trying to find or take advantage of, that impact. And so, you're in Atlanta now. You've been in Atlanta for a long time, but you're from New York, right? And could you have done what you're doing today as easily? Maybe it wasn't easy, but as easily as you're doing it in Atlanta had you stayed in New York? Like, what unique value did being in the South provide to you that you might not have got anywhere else?
where you out of?
I'm out of Ohio.
Ohio. I mean, the short answer is hell no. Atlanta is special. Atlanta is a special place. And, I born and raised in Harlem, and I'm sure you've encountered more than enough New York people. Either we rub you the wrong way or you love us to death. But folks from New York, man, they think that's the epicenter of the world.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in some aspects it is. But I'm gonna tell you, Atlanta is special. You can't travel anywhere in the world and say, you know what, this place feels like Atlanta. The hell it does. I mean, from your black mayors to your black chief of police, to the fire department. I mean, a black man brought the Olympics to put Atlanta on a world map in 1996. It was a team of folks that looked like us. And when we moved throughout the city and look at the business owners and entrepreneurs and your city councilmen, I don't care if you're in the in the throes and in the back of the restaurant talking to the busboy or the person that actually owns the entire building. A lot of them are black, you
Yep.
know. So I just say it's a special place, and where if you are within the right circles, everyone that you need is a call or two away, right? Um, could I have scheduled a sit down with the mayor in New York? It'd been tough.
Probably not. It's hard, a lot harder, I'm
Right.
sure.
You know what I'm saying? In Atlanta, we can go out for drinks, probably. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's a different beast, man. So maybe it could have gotten done in New York, but I think Atlanta, as far as the culture, embracing ideas, especially around music and culture, or fashion and art, like Atlanta's hungry for it, man. And it's it turned the pandemic. Shit, Atlanta turned into it's Cancun, man. Everybody's coming to Atlanta. Atlanta was wide open, just in the clubs, and it's just a social spot. And despite what they have in the news, it is a safe place for Black folks to thrive and grow, find who they are, and develop and launch ideas.
You mentioned COVID, and I wonder, like, I do believe every crisis presents opportunities that we probably wouldn't have foresaw otherwise. What did this pandemic provide to the event space that otherwise you wouldn't even be considering?
The and as soon as this thing hit in early 2000s, and that's what I told told the team, I said, this pandemic will expose your weaknesses. It will expose the things that you should have been paying attention to, that now you're forced to pay attention to, right? For years, we have been talking about streaming, developing digital platforms, for years. And it's like, we'll get to it, right? We'll figure it out. All right. We're good. We're good. All the live events we're doing, popping and moving. And then it was like, oh, you just got punched in the face. And it's like, sit down, slow down a little bit, and sharpen your tools and figure out other components and aspects of your business. So I think it made us hone in on tightening up our quote unquote system internally. Um, it made us get creative in ways that we should have gotten creative with earlier. I mean, we launched a virtual festival event during COVID that is actually doing extremely well, and now it's going to turn into a live event in 2022, and properly called At the Crib Fest. You know, we've had everybody from Tobey and the Wigweed to Ari Lennox to Ro James to Lucky Day. I mean, it was incredible. We attached one of our brand partners to it, and it's one of their leading digital platform that they use to kind of, reach the Black community. So yeah, I think the other part of that conversation, we said it's going to expose our weaknesses, but I also said that the creatives will be the ones that's going to win during this pandemic. People that can kind of think outside of the box and do some different shit are the ones that's going to win.
Yeah, and to that point, how do you imagine technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, might create unique opportunities for Black festivals going forward?
We looked at that too, man. I mean, the numbers are rising on the headsets, Oculus, and all that stuff, and AR and VR.
Is that something you're paying a lot of attention to these days, or is it you don't maybe anticipate it to be disruptive in like the near term?
I mean, between you and I, we filmed, 2019 in 360 VR, right? So we filmed it on regular camera, but we also filmed it in 360 VR. You can't find any hip hop content in 360 VR, but we got it. You can't find Gucci Man on 360 VR. You can't find a 3-6 Mafia reunion on 360 VR, but we got it. So we have been interested in that space for a while. But we're not buying the hardware, man. That's the thing. I don't know how many friends you got that look like us. You roll their crib and you see, VR headsets just laying around.
Yeah, I have it, but not a lot of friends. Yeah.
Yeah, or consuming that kind of content.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like the people have to catch up to the technology. But I think but if you're building a database of this kind of content and information, it's going to be worth something today.
Yeah, let's go in there, because I wonder how much should people in your shoes, particularly Black folks who are looking to capitalize on the long term of these opportunities, how much should we be paying attention to something that might be nascent today, but will tomorrow be humongous? Because I think if you think about it, to your point, if you were doing this, you got 2019 Gucci Mane and VR, and you got 360-degree VR, that's going to be worth something, after a period of time. It's worth something today, but in the grand scheme, this is something nobody else has. And that's a moment in time that you can't replicate, right? And so how should we be thinking about the opportunities that are available now, but will be valuable going forward as Black entrepreneurs and innovators?
Yeah, and we have to get better at doing that as well. I mean, a lot of times we look for the quick hit, rather than the 5, 10, 15-year plan. But we got to look at what's coming and get in front of that wave. Because we already create the culture. We already create all the cool shit, I mean, they used to laugh at us when we put TVs in our car and 21-inch rims. You know what I'm saying? Now
Now
you go,
everything comes that way.
yeah. Oh, do you want the luxury package? Do you want the platinum package with the TVs? And do you want the 20-inch alloys? Right?
Right,
Oh, we've
right.
been doing that, man. But we just, we have the ideas, we have the creativities, but we got to figure out how to own it, right? How to get in front of the wave that's coming. So it is understanding business, the fundamentals of business, and positioning yourself to win, you know. So how do you do that? That's a great question, man. Um,
Yeah.
but it's I mean, staying abreast on technology, what's coming down the pipeline. I mean, we all called Elon Musk insane, you know, but I mean, he's thinking 20 years down the road into the future, man.
Yeah.
Um, and so and sometimes you don't have to own it. Maybe you just want to buy a little piece of it, you know. Uh, so read the digest, read the technology digest of what's coming, see who's investing in what. Um, and a lot of times just being close to the conversation will help you win, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's Elon ain't in the business of losing.
It's a
Folks
fact.
like Jay-Z ain't into the business of losing, you know. What is he building out?
It's a
What does he
fact.
invest his money into? Right? Does he have new businesses that he's creating? Is it open to the public? How do you invest in that? You know, instead of spending, $3,000 at the club, take your $3,000, man, and invest it into that cannabis company that he just launched. You know what I'm saying? Well, not just launched, but
Yeah. Yeah.
align yourself with forward thinking folks that are used to winning.
Entrepreneurs often dabble their way to finding their success, even if they aren't intentionally dabbling. They're trying things, hoping that the thing that they're working on is the thing that makes it right. And your journey includes things like putting on these DJ festival mini DJ festivals, gathering DJs from different backgrounds and music verticals, and that's what Soul Fusion was, correct, right?
Yeah, you going
Yeah,
back.
yeah. Soul Fusion, and even the early days of you doing live music promotions. And I wonder, even with none of those being the thing that you ultimately did, how did you know early that the One Music Fest was the thing that, while it didn't have wild early successes, you knew that this was the thing that you should be doing longer term versus the other things that you were trying to make work over a longer period of time, and ultimately you figured out that it wasn't it. How did you know to keep going here?
Growth, growth, and listening to the audience. Um, every year it grew, every year for 10 years. It just, the attendance grew. Um, More sponsors and brands were knocking on the door, looking to get involved. Um, and then also just, you got to audit your audience as well, man, and getting the feedback and listening to them, we automatically knew that we had something different and something that's special. Um, and also everyone's trying to get into Atlanta. So if you can build this, because if we didn't build it, somebody from another city would have came in and just dropped a Black Festival right in the middle of Atlanta, right? And I've seen it happen far too much, where outside businesses and forces come in and they just buy up Atlanta, eat it up, and they spit it out and they move on. So I said, well, you know what? We need to have something home based here, that is ours, but the doors of the church are open. Everyone's invited. You know what I'm saying? But have it based and rooted in Atlanta and Atlanta culture. So when we first started it, man, I would say the first 3-4 years, every year the numbers would double, right? We get more media hits. We get some bigger artists, bigger sponsors would come on board. It still wasn't turning a profit. but it was the growth, bro. I mean, just looking at the steady line of growth. Because I was about to quit. I mean, I tell this story a lot. I seriously was about to quit after 2014. We took a big hit, but we spent more on artists than we ever done. We moved to a bigger venue. Just the expenses look crazy on paper. I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? This is insane. And we rolled the dice, man. It was felt like a great event, but it lost money, man. But it was my wife that really kind of grounded me, and she said, "Look, you can look at it as a loss, or you can look at it as an investment, right? That money that you lost, look at that as you putting that money into building this brand. You put too much into it thus far, and the numbers are showing the growth. I mean, it's there. So she was like, I wouldn't quit right now. I think you should keep going. So, oh shit, well, yeah. At least I ain't
Yeah.
getting kicked out of the house, so I'm safe there,
No,
right?
no, that's such a valid point, and this is I'm gonna pose this as a comment first, but then I'm gonna throw it to you as a question. I would imagine, because I've done this. I've looked at things that I've dealt with in my history, trying to build my thing, and I'm a very irregular journaler. Like, I'll write things down, like what I'm going through in my life on my entrepreneurial journey, and then I'll look back 6 months, a year, 2 years later, and I'm like, I was dealing with that, and that was frustrating. That little thing was frustrating, but at the time, it was the biggest thing in the world. And I would imagine, just based on what you just said, the expenses were crazy back in 2014. If you had those problems now, they would be small fry problems, I would imagine.
Right. That's real. That is real. Yeah, you gotta push through, man. Sometimes you just gotta push through, and light is right on the other side of that struggle, on the other side of that door. And that next year was a year we flipped it and turned a profit, and didn't look back since. So,
So I, I,
uh,
I would bet you would take the 2014 expenses that you thought were humongous at the time,
oh yeah,
and today,
yeah, I'd embrace them, man. I would embrace it with open arms, man. I wish. So, hey, but that's the nature of the festival business too, man, that you get caught up in, man. It's continuous growth. So with that, of course, your risk is more risk, it's more expenses. Um, but yeah, no one wants you see you be the same every year. It's like, what's new?
yeah,
Especially with all these new festivals kind of popping up in it. Yeah, you just gotta keep it fresh and new.
yeah. And to your point about continuing to push and continuing to get better and etc. I'm going to ask you to put on your motivational hat for a second, because just in having the challenges of being an entrepreneur, to your point of you always got to be pushing, those 2014 expenses were massive for that day, for that step in your journey. And I would imagine your expenses today are in the step, massive in the step of your journey. And if you think about it, it never really gets easier. Like, you're always leveling up and you're always being challenged. And do you think too many of us look for the day where, oh, this is nothing, like I can write that check easy? And if you get to that place, are you in the wrong place, or should it always be challenging?
Yeah, I think that's where you find growth, right? In the challenges. And I tell my sons that, man. I said, if it's too easy for you, yeah, well, you're doing it wrong. I mean, you want to be challenged. I think going through a little bit of struggle is where you truly learn. Now, do I think life should be tough? No, I'm not saying that. But I think the moment it gets too easy, typically is a moment things get snatched away for some reason, right? Um, but I think in business, in life, you know, you're not really going to know what you're made of or what you're able to accomplish uh, if you don't just try something new. I mean, there was a quote I saw the other day. It's like, courage or bravery, I think it says, is understanding that it's okay to suck at something, right? Um, you know, because the first time you do anything, you're not going to do it well, right? So you got to
Yeah.
be okay with sucking at something in order to get good at
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
But once you get to that one level and it does start getting easy, right? Yeah,
It's time to go to the next level
it's how to,
where
yeah,
you're going to suck again.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So,
Uh,
um,
but the one music fest motto is unity through music, and which implies, on its face, that you're working to bring together people from diverse backgrounds, perspectives, and et cetera, to all have, a good time, to sit on this wavelength of happiness and cultural impact through music.
that's
And far too often, um, Black entrepreneurs get boxed into creating products, services, experiences for niche audiences, our audience, and just our audience. And people don't believe that we can do it for everybody, that we can do them, that we can serve the mass market. And what is it that you are very conscious to do inside your daily work, your, current career objective, to be intentional at making your festival welcoming to all people so that it is mass market and culturally impactful across backgrounds?
Um, so yeah, from day one, that was our motto, right? Uh, was unity through music, and initially it was, I guess, being from New York. Um, as a child, I listened to everything, man. Like, I was listening to rock, I was listening to reggae, I was listening to house music, I was listening to hip hop. I was just exposed to a lot of different music. Um, and then in moving to around in Atlanta, what I saw was, it'd be white night at this club on Friday, and it's black night on Saturday, and then it's Asian on Sunday. And then this club played trap music, and then this club only played house, and sometimes you would move into these different little pockets, and you'll see about 5% of the same people that kind of know how to float and bounce in and out of different spaces. Um, and then I was like, you know what, man? But if I took any one of these, you know, this white guy, this white girl's phone, and went through their playlist, I bet you it probably would be about 25, 35% overlap in some of the music we listen to. But we like to listen to it in our own little pockets and spaces, right? So I said, well, let me try this first in the black community, right? Let me take the people that just listen to trap music and people that just listen to soul, and let me put all these artists together, right? And see and just see what happens. Because I do think there's wealth and power that comes to us all connected and uniting, right? Call it kumbaya or call it, some hippie mentality. But I said, you know what, I think this will work. I think the same. I mean, hell, Jeezy listened to Sade. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there was a group called Quadrant. I don't know if you're familiar with the group. It was
No.
out of Belgium. Had them back in 2013, I think. Quadrant, white soul group.
Mm.
That same year, I had Joey Badass, right? And I walked into the trailer of Quadrant because they was about to hit the stage. I see Joey in there. I'm like, what the fuck? I said, and they vibing off each other, taking pictures. And I said, yo, what you know about Quadrant? So he was hip on this Belgium soul band,
Wow.
right? And she was a fan of Joey Badass, this 18-year-old kid out of Brooklyn, right? But you would have never known that, right? Just from the outside looking in. So I was like, oh no, I get it. I get it. Like music is one of the main things that kind of brings folks together.
Yeah.
Uh, so instead of it always being the white man letting us come play in his house, I said, all right, this the black house, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Y'all are all are welcome to kick it, but understand this is about black culture, but you're invited too. Just wipe your feet at the door and act accordingly. So that has always been our mission. And even without kind of just shoving it down people's throats, you don't even have to talk about it no more. It's almost accepted and known, right? Like, yo, you go to one music festival, it's gonna be like this. It's gonna be on some old HBCU homecoming meets Woodstock. That's what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
Uh, and to this day, not knock on wood, we've never had any incidents.
love it. I love it. Um, I am a very intentional app deleter. Like I will delete an app like at the minute it no longer becomes useful to me, right? And you spent some time over the past few years like building native applications for your festivals, and um, a lot of people spend a lot of time and a lot of money building apps that serve the purposes of that thing, that service, that particular service, that particular product. And I wonder, what did you learn or what are you learning about how to keep people engaged and involved after the conference is over? If that's anything you spent time thinking about.
A little bit, not via the app though, but that is a thought. I mean, it'd be great if we could keep folks engaged through the app, and we may try that. I mean, hell, we don't pay for it at this point, right? Um, but we have other programming that we do all throughout the year. Um, Again, we were a brand agency first, and One Music Fest was actually an activation we created for a brand, and it just turned into a monster of its own. So through the brands that we work with, we do create culturally engaging events and activations all throughout the year. So we probably do at least 20 events throughout the year, but One Music Fest is just the biggest one.
Oh. And then lastly, just because you're winning externally doesn't always mean you're winning internally. And I was reading this interview you did some years ago, and you were looking back at the 2010 event that you did, and there was the article talked about it had like more than 2,500 people there, an impressive number. And but you said in an interview, we took it on the chin that year. We took it on the chin for 5 years actually. But that's some advice that we got from the folks at Bonnaroo. Like, if you can just survive for 5 years, you might see daylight. Another person told you, if you don't have $2 million in the bank to lose, don't do it. And you did not have $2 million in the bank to lose. Looking back, how were you holding on to some stitch of thread to keep from falling? Because there's so many entrepreneurs who get into industries, particularly tech, trying to build technology, build events, build, activations or whatever it is that they're trying to do. And they see this mountain in front of them, and it may be lofty goals that they have, but if the expenses are mounting, the challenges are mounting, people aren't signing up as fast. Externally, things look fine. They look like the man. They, on the cover of the magazines or whatever. But internally, they see the issues that plague their business. What was it that you were doing that allowed you to hold on to the thread, to see this thing through to the other side to where it's actually becoming viable?
That's a great question, man. Um, it's just being resolute, man, and persevering through. It's I guess defeat is really when you just give up, right? I mean, we took it on the chin, but that was round one, right? I got a whole lot more rounds to fight. So, it was a learning experience. I think where, uh, if I knew what I know now 10 years ago, right? But we all say that. I mean, as parents, as adults, we say, if I knew what I knew now then. Um, but I knew that then. I just said, hey, I'm still learning this thing. Yeah, I don't have a mentor in this thing. I got a bunch of folks around me that believe in me and believe in the concept, and I'm not going to give up on this thing, right? So um, I had so much more to learn that I would be doing myself an injustice if I just stopped, right? Because I learned enough by the losses. I knew what I wanted this thing to become and be, right? I didn't have room to stop, right? I mean, honestly, even after taking on the chin year one, it was never it wasn't an inkling of thought to be like, I ain't doing this shit again.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, how we gonna do this next year? Where we gonna take this? How we gonna grow this bad boy? You know, I mean, I'm gonna tell you, 14 was the year I was like, I don't know about this. but prior to that, I was like, nah, man, it's too much possibility for this thing, for me to pull out now, man. And I saw the long-term goals. You know, did I think I would end up here? Maybe, but I saw a long-term goal of the brand and what it could mean to Black culture and just Atlanta in general.